Chapter 261. You are not worthy of my love at all. When Jianyun woke up again, it was already the next morning. Outside the window, the sky was bright. It was May in 2 days and the weather was gradually getting hotter. The pot of moonlight that she had brought from the rented house had also quietly bloomed on the balcony. But why did her body hurt so much? Her hands and legs seemed to be no longer hers. It was difficult for her to even move a little. Jianyun opened her eyes, but her eyes were lifeless. She just lay there and looked outside the half-closed curtains. She clearly knew that this was not her own room, but she did not want to think about why she was here. At this moment, her mind was in chaos. When she heard the sound of footsteps, she subconsciously closed her eyes again. The side of the bed sunk. Someone sat up and then a hand touched Jianyun's face. It was a big hand and it was very warm. Jianyun gently pulled back her hand. That hand stopped and Jianyun heard a sigh. It was my fault last night. I'm sorry for hurting you, Huo Liancheng said. Jianyun still closed her eyes. There was no reaction. She just put her hand under the blanket and pinched the sheet. Don't be angry, okay? In the past, it was I who misunderstood you. I apologize to you, Huo Liancheng said again. He reached out and grabbed Jianyun's arm. Jianyun had to work very hard to resist the urge to slap Huo Liancheng. She had already thought of everything. What happened last night, their quarrel, and what he said were all like awls piercing her heart. She tried hard not to recall what happened after she was violated on the floor by him, but those scenes were like a movie. Every scene appeared in front of her eyes. He ignored her pleas and brutally violated her. Later on, although he carried her into the room and treated her very gently, it was not enough to make up for the damage and humiliation she suffered. He said that she made him feel humiliated, but in her opinion, he also made her feel deeply ashamed. Insult. What should she do? She could no longer face him. The current society no longer cared about that membrane as much as it did in ancient times. But Jian Yun still cared about this matter. She felt that the first time should be a wonderful experience. She only wanted to give the person she loved. But Xu Haiyang did not cherish it back then. After that, she did not love it anymore because she did not want to be so casual. Who would have thought that she would lose her first time in such a situation after maintaining her purity for so long? This was something she could not accept. Huo Liancheng sat for a while and saw that Jian Yun did not open her eyes. He also understood that his actions last night were indeed too extreme. She was so proud and had strong self-esteem. It would definitely be hard for her to accept him for a while. Don't go to work today. Have a good rest. I will ask Big Sister Chen to take care of you. If there's any discomfort, tell me, or tell Big Sister Chen. Huo Liancheng bent over and wanted to kiss Jian Yun. Jian Yun felt his approach and subconsciously turned her head to dodge. Huo Liancheng did not kiss her face. His lips only landed on her forehead. Huo Liancheng was stunned and did not force Jian Yun anymore. He looked at half of her shoulder that was exposed outside the blanket and quickly looked away. His Adam's apple rolled up and down. He got up and walked outside. When he reached the door, he turned around again. He said, I'm going to the company. The ointment is on the table. He continued, if you're not feeling well, apply the ointment. Jian Yun heard the door close. After a long time, she opened her eyes. However, the corner of her mouth was tightly clenched and blood was seeping out. How could he pretend that nothing happened? He was so calm and collected, but she did not forget. What he said last night? He told her to get out of here and never show up in front of him. He even said that he regretted meeting her. Chapter 262. Escape. Jian Yun covered her face with her hands. The deep humiliation and grievance almost drowned her. The pain in her body made her collapse. She had never thought that she would have such a terrible day. After an unknown amount of time, Jian Yun heard a knock on the door. Miss Jian, are you awake? Mr. Huo asked me to take care of you. Wait a moment. Jian Yun knew that Sister Chen was Huo Liancheng's family doctor. She was a good person, but she did not want to expose her weakness in front of others. She sat up and looked around. This was Huo Liancheng's bedroom. She was here last night by him. Jian Yun's eyes darkened. She did not want to think about it anymore. She turned to the outside and said, Sister Chen, please go to the opposite bedroom and get me a set of clothes. I will go take a bath. You can come in and put them on the bed. Okay. Sister Chen agreed and walked away. Jian Yun pushed herself out of bed and walked to the bathroom. She felt a little more comfortable after washing up, but she could not look down at herself. Her body was purple and purple. It could be seen how violent she was last night. Moreover, it was still painful up until now. She even used a lot of effort to walk. When Jian Yun came out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel, she found that her clothes were already on the bed. Sister Chen was very considerate and took them from the inner and outer parts of the city for her. When she changed her clothes, Jian Yun glanced at the bed from the corner of her eye. She immediately stopped breathing, because she saw that under the blanket that she had just lifted up, there was a piercing red on the grayish-white bed sheet. Jian Yun's hand shook, and she quickly looked away. There was embarrassment on her face. No, she could not continue to look. Jian Yun turned around and walked out of the bedroom. Sister Chen brought her breakfast. Miss Jian, Mr. Huo said you had a cold and a fever. It's best to eat it lightly these few days. Sister Chen passed the bowl of porridge to Jian Yun. She saw the wound on Jian Yun's neck and could not help frowning. However, as Huo Liancheng's family doctor, she naturally knew what she should do. She absolutely could not interfere in matters that should not be handled by her. Therefore, even though she sympathized with Jian Yun's encounter in her heart, she only said softly, After eating, I'll give you some medicine. Jian Yun did not react. She did not seem to see Sister Chen's sympathetic eyes. She drank half a bowl of porridge and put down the bowl. Sister Chen measured Jian Yun's body temperature. 36.8. Nothing much. There's a process of catching a cold. You just need to drink more water. Sister Chen reminded her. Okay, Wang Yao said. Jian Yun nodded. She thought Huo Liancheng had poured cold water on her and that she would have a fever so high that she could not get up. She did not expect Huo Liancheng to sweat all over her body last night. The fever had subsided, but her head still hurt. Miss Jian, if you don't want to eat, don't eat. Eat when you are hungry. Sister Chen knew that people who were sick had no appetite, and she did not force Jian Yun to eat. She got up and packed the medicine. Sister Chen, did you drive here? In the silence, Jian Yun suddenly asked. Yes, why? Sister Chen turned her head and asked. Although she had only met Jian Yun once, she still quite liked this young lady. She was smart, polite, and friendly to people. She was not like those so-called socialites who had eyes on their heads. I want to go to the hospital to see my mother. Can you bring me there? Jian Yun asked. But Mr. Huo wants you to rest at home. Sister Chen was a little hesitant. After all, she was hired by Huo Liancheng and naturally had to listen to his instructions. I'll go see Mom. He won't say anything. Jian Yun lowered her eyes to cover the dark look in her eyes. She said softly, I'm a little dizzy, otherwise I'll drive myself. Sister Chen thought that it was right. Jian Yun's fever had just subsided and it was not safe to drive. It was better for her to bring her there. Okay, I will tell Mr. Huo. Sister Chen said. Okay. Jian Yun did not think that Sister Chen was doing anything wrong. She stood up. I'll go get the bag. Jian Yun went into her bedroom. Not long after, she came out again. She changed into her clothes and carried the bag. She walked over again and picked up the small box on the coffee table. Miss Jian, are you going out? Sister Chen was nervous. Jian Yun looked back at her and smiled. She opened the box and let Sister Chen see clearly. Here are all photos. I brought them for my mother to see. Sister Chen took a look and found that the photos in the box were indeed photos. She then heaved a sigh of relief. Just now, she almost really thought that Jian Yun was planning to go on a long journey. Just as she went out, Jian Yun suddenly stopped. Sister Chen, wait for me for a moment. I forgot to take my phone. Sister Chen did not think too much about it. She stood at the elevator entrance and waited for Jian Yun. Not long after, Jian Yun turned around and the two of them entered the elevator together. Along the way, Jian Yun did not say anything. Only when she entered the hospital and got out of the car, did she smile and thank Sister Chen. After Sister Chen left, Jian Yun entered Wu Yangfei's ward. Wu Yangfei was not in the room and should have gone to the garden to bask in the sun. Jian Yun put the box on the bed and opened it. She took out a bag. Inside the bag was surprisingly her clothes. Jian Yun poured out the things in the bag and tidied it up. She took out a larger suitcase from under the bed. This was what Wu Yangfei had brought from home when she had just been hospitalized. Inside were some clothes she and Wu Yangfei had changed into. After putting all her things into the suitcase, Jian Yun heard the sound of the door opening. It was the nurse who had pushed Wu Yangfei back. Yunduo, you're here? Wu Yangfei was sitting in a wheelchair. Although her head was still wrapped in gauze, her entire spirit was much better. Mom. Jian Yun walked over and hugged Wu Yangfei. Why do you look so bad? Are you sick? Wu Yangfei asked worriedly. Yes, I had a cold and a fever yesterday. Jian Yun pinched her nose and smiled. Mom, I want to tell you something. Wu Yangfei's eyes swept over the scarf tied around Jian Yun's neck. At this moment when she heard Jian Yun's words, she also smiled and said, What is it? I want to go out to study and go to the capital. I don't know how long I will be gone. I might not be able to come see you for some time. Jian Yun's expression was a little distressed, but there was a hint of annoyance in senses. She could not face Huo Liancheng again, especially after he said those words. She could not get along with him anymore, so she could only choose to leave. But she did not want her mother to worry, so she could only make up an excuse. Do you want to go for a long time? Wu Yangfei also frowned. But then she smiled. Your job is important. Women still need to have their own careers. They cannot blindly rely on men. It is good to study and let themselves do something. Yes, mother, there is one more thing. Jian Yun thought about it and said, I have asked Director Bai. Your condition is stable. You will be discharged soon. It is too expensive here after all. Although he is spending money, I still feel that it is not good. Yunduo, did you two fight? Wu Yangfei keenly sensed the fatigue in Jian Yun's voice. No. Jian Yun naturally denied it. She smiled. The rent here is only a few thousand per day. His money is also money. If he can save it, then save it. This is what Mom taught me. Chapter 263. Your man is looking for you. Yes, actually I think so too. Yunduo, just make your decision. Mom will listen to you. Wu Yangfei also smiled. Right, Yunduo, how is the divorce going? It's already being settled. Jian Yun began to change the topic. She did not dare to say that the divorce agreement was still with her. She did not even look for a lawyer. However, after her quarrel with Huo Liancheng last night, she had completely figured it out. Rather than the two of them being suspicious, distrustful, and even hurting each other, it was better to completely separate. Just like Mom and Dad, what was the point of fighting over those assets? The most important thing was to be healthy and to be in a good mood. If leaving Dad could make Mom feel good, then even if she gave up everything, what did it matter? Jian Yun stayed in the hospital with Wu Yangfei for a while. She looked at the time and saw that it was almost 10 o'clock. She got up. Mom, I have to go. Let's call. Right, I called Auntie Chin. She will be here in 2 days. Okay, I miss her a little too, Wu Yangfei said. Jian Yun hugged Wu Yangfei. When she turned around, she saw the small secret box. She stuffed the box under the bed. She said, Mom, this box was given to me by Shu Haiyang. Inside are photos of me and him. Don't peek at me. I'll deal with it when I come back. Don't worry. Since you were young, when did Mom peek at your privacy? Wu Yangfei rolled her eyes at Jian Yun. Jian Yun pursed her lips and smiled. She hugged Wu Yangfei again. Mother is still the best. All right, do you still have something to do? She continued. You can go. Don't waste time. Perhaps Jian Yun disguised herself too well, but Wu Yangfei did not see anything wrong. She even urged Jian Yun to leave quickly, just like usual. When Jian Yun dragged her suitcase out the door, tears flowed in her eyes. She was really useless. Even if she hated him so much in her heart, she could not completely fall out with him, because she did not have the ability to protect her mother right now. As long as she thought about how her mother still needed his help to have such good medical conditions, Jian Yun felt very uncomfortable in her heart. After leaving the hospital, Jian Yun saw that there was a pharmacy by the road. She suddenly remembered that he did not take any safety measures last night. Although her menstrual period had only been a few days, logically speaking it should still be a safe period. But Wu Wenjing had previously told her that a safe period was not reliable. So she should be careful. Jian Yun went into the pharmacy and bought an emergency contraceptive pill. She called a taxi and went to the high-speed train station. She took out a cup from her bag and swallowed the pill with water. She did not want to get pregnant or have Huo Liancheng's child. She did not want to have Huo Liancheng's child at all. She was treated like that by him. She could not forgive him anymore. The taxi did not go far when Jian Yun noticed a car following behind. She had thought it through since last night. The reason why she had been stared at a few days ago was not her illusion. It was because someone was following her. It was obvious who this person was. Otherwise, how could Huo Liancheng appear so coincidentally outside the place she and Xu Haiyan had agreed on? The hospital was not far from the high-speed rail station. 20 minutes later, Jian Yun got out of the car. She entered the station and directly bought the ticket to the capital. She was very lucky. She bought the last ticket and naturally noticed that the person following her did not get into the car. Jian Yun heaved a sigh of relief. She found a seat and sat down. She relaxed a little and her body began to hurt again. She covered her face and the man beside her looked at her. He seemed to want to talk to her, but Jian Yun did not want to say anything now. Her mind was thinking about what happened last night, and what he said made her really uncomfortable. Jian Yun did not go to the imperial capital. She got out of the car at the next stop and got on the high-speed train back to Qinghu City. She got off the train at Qinghu North Station and got into a taxi. She went to Xinbei District, which was the new city zone that Qinghu City had just developed in recent years. She had a friend who lived here. When she decided to leave this morning, she sent a message to this friend. She planned to stay here for a while and calm herself down. She wanted to think about what to do next. Jian Yun got to know this friend online. She was 12 years older than her and was called Yan Zi. She was a column writer and also wrote novels online. Jian Yun was her reader. They accidentally became netizens a few years ago. Through the conversation, Jian Yun became more and more familiar with her and found the two of them in Qinghu City and met. The two of them were very close to each other and chatted very well. Thus, they became good friends. Yanzi was 1.7 meters tall and very beautiful. Her temperament was good too. Her husband was a contractor. She was away all year long, but she was very good to her. But they had been married for many years and there were no children until now. Yanzi's family lived in a large residential area and the environment was good. She picked up Jian Yun at the entrance of the residential area and went home together. It was not the first time Jian Yun and Yanzi met, and the two of them were very familiar. Coming here was like going home, very comfortable. Little Jane, I still have 1,000 words to write. You can move around by yourself first. There's food in the fridge and snacks are still in the same place. Yanzi rushed into the study room as soon as she entered and continued to tap on the keyboard. Didn't you tell me not to call me Jane? It sounds weird. Jian Yun complained in dissatisfaction. She had been running around this morning and her body was really uncomfortable. She was too lazy to pack the boxes and directly laid down on the sofa in Yanzi's living room. Yanzi knocked on the keyboard for a while and suddenly stopped. A few seconds later, she appeared beside Jian Yun. Didn't you say you wanted to write an article? Jian Yun looked at Yanzi, who had messy hair, and asked, I'm so happy to see you. I suddenly don't have any thoughts of writing. Yanzi curled her lips. Her eyes kept scanning Jian Yun's body from head to toe. Her gaze returned to Jian Yun's neck. Forget it. It's clearly you who don't want to write. Don't use me as a reason. Jian Yun rolled her eyes. Yanzi quit her job a few years ago and focused on writing articles at home. Now she was also a slightly famous writer, the kind that frequently participated in signing sales meetings. Once she became famous, she did not need to write a lot every day like she did in the beginning. Now she paid more attention to quality, so the daily tasks were not heavy. Your phone is on. Yanzi squatted by the sofa and pouted at Jian Yun's bag on the coffee table. Jian Yun struggled to get up. She picked up her phone and looked at the caller ID. She hung up immediately. When she went out in the morning, she set her phone to vibrate. She looked at her phone and sure enough, Huo Liancheng had been calling her since she got on the high-speed rail. There were dozens of missed calls on her phone. You're not picking up? Yanzi blinked her eyes and looked like she was gossiping. Did your man hit you? Did you guys fight? I don't want to talk about him. Jian Yun had mentioned Huo Liancheng to Yanzi, but she did not mention his name. She only said that he was a rich man chasing after her. Yanzi knew a little about her and Huo Liancheng. What happened to his neck? Yanzi saw Jian Yun's expression was not right and stopped thinking about gossiping and joking. Chapter 264, I Have a Psychological Shadow. When Jian Yun entered the house, she took off her coat and took off her scarf. Yanzi immediately saw the wound on Jian Yun's neck. She looked at the deep bite mark and her pupils could not help contracting. Your man did it? Yanzi asked. Jian Yun turned her head away and felt a little embarrassed. She nodded and reached out to cover her neck. Yanzi frowned and sat beside Jianyun. She pulled her arm and rolled up her sleeves. She had experienced similar things before, and could tell what was going on with these purple and purple colors at a glance. Yanzi frowned even more. She said, "What's going on? You were raped?" Jianyun quickly pulled her hand back. She lowered her head and did not know what to say. "Didn't you say he was very good to you? Why is he so rude? Could it be that he has a special hobby?" Jianyun did not say anything. Yanzi was very curious. She could not help but guess. "Yesterday my ex-boyfriend asked me to go out and give me the diary of the photos and photos of us when we were together. Then he suddenly appeared and misunderstood what my ex-boyfriend and I did. Later, Jianyun and Yanzi had always talked about everything. Perhaps it was because they met on the internet, and Yanzi was older than her, and her thoughts were mature. Jianyun trusted her very much, and there were some things that she would not tell Wu Wenjing and Luo Yanyan, but would tell Yanzi. Then he raped you, and then he abused you?" Yanzi asked seriously. "Yes," Jianyun nodded. "What Huo Liancheng did to her last night was no different than torture. It was a double torture of words and body. My ex-boyfriend drugged me. He said I was a slut. He said I wanted to do something like that with my ex-boyfriend. That was why I was drugged." Jianyun smiled bitterly. She rubbed her face. When she thought about what Huo Liancheng had said to her wrongly last night, she was furious. Her heart was bitter. "That ex-boyfriend of yours who cheated on me, your ex-boyfriend is really troublesome. Do you want to see you find a man stronger than him now?" So he was not willing to accept it. "He came to pester you again?" Yanzi put her hand on Jianyun's shoulder and gently patted her. Jianyun shook her head. She did not want to comment on Shu Haiyang anymore. All the beautiful memories and feelings hidden in her heart were disappearing because of his actions last night. "He even said that he regretted meeting me and told me to get lost. He said that he had been with me for so long. In the end, I will give him some benefits." Jianyun paused and buried her face in Yanzi's chest. She said in a muffled voice, "Sister Z, my body hurts. This is the first time that you are such a stinky man who does not know how to take pity on Rang. Forget it. Don't bother with him in the future. If he doesn't believe you so much, just dump him. I'll introduce you to a good man." Yanzi hugged Jianyun with heartache. Jianyun was just like her younger sister. She really liked this sensible and beautiful girl. "Sister Z, I have a psychological shadow." Jianyun shook her head. How could she have the heart to find a man now? She did not want to look for a man in the future. "What's with the shadow? Let me tell you, that thing is to learn to get used to it. The more you do, the more fun it will be. That man of yours is too bad. Next time I will introduce you to a man with good skills." Yanzi covered her mouth and laughed. "Not serious." Jianyun looked up and rolled her eyes at Yanzi. She knew that Yanzi was joking. The people who wrote novels were especially good at imagining things, and they were very open-minded when they talked. Jianyun had been flirted with by Yanzi countless times on the internet. "All right, don't think about those unhappy things. Your brother-in-law is not at home, and I am bored alone. You can come and accompany me. I am happy, and you can live here peacefully. Don't pay attention to him these few days and see how he will react," she continued. "Actually, to be honest, you can't just look at a man. From that perspective, it also depends on whether you can get along well in your daily life, your thoughts, and other aspects." Yanzi patted Jianyun's head as if she was patting a kitten and taught her carefully. "Sister Z, it is impossible for him and I to be compatible." Jianyun heard her words, but shook her head. "There is a huge disparity in status. It is wrong to not be a household. Even if we force ourselves to be together, we will. For various reasons, we will still have to separate in the end. Is the disparity between your statuses that great? It's not like there's no precedent." Yanzi did not think much of it. "Besides, is money that important? Sister Z, do you know about the Huo family?" Jianyun had already decided not to endure any longer. She could not forgive Huo Liancheng anymore. She planned to slowly repay what she owed him in the future. "The Huo family in Hong Kong City?" Yanzi raised her eyebrows and said in shock. "No, the other one." Jianyun shook her head. "The other one?" Yanzi's eyes suddenly widened, and her mouth also opened into the shape of a duck egg. "You're talking about that." Jianyun knew Yanzi had guessed it. After all, both of them were surnamed Huo, and were even more powerful than the Huo family in Hong Kong City. There was no one else in the world. She smiled bitterly and said, "He is the eldest son of the Huo family." She continued, "The disparity between our statuses is huge." Yanzi heard this and was shocked to the point of being petrified on the spot. After a long while, she came back to her senses. Jianyun saw that there was something wrong with her expression and thought that she was shocked. She wanted to say something, but before she could open her mouth, she saw Yanzi looking at her enviously. There was envy in both of her eyes. "Yun, I am so jealous of you. Oh, I've seen a picture of the young master of Huo family. I like his looks very much. He's really handsome. The male protagonist image in my book is all reference to him." Yanzi held her face with both hands and had a look of infatuation. "Hey!" Jianyun's eyelids twitched, and she covered her face. How could she bump into Huo Liancheng's fans everywhere? "All right, I'm not joking." Yanzi saw that Jianyun was angry and immediately returned to her normal face. She said seriously, When you say this, I also feel that the difference in status is too great. Marrying someone like that, it's better to be alone and happy. There are conflicts in the wealthy class, and scheming is something that a pure young lady like you cannot imagine. You seem to understand. Jian Yun saw that her phone lit up again, and the caller ID was still flashing. She turned off the phone in frustration. She did not want to bother with him. She did not want to talk to him. I don't want to talk to him. Every cell in her body was shouting these 4 words. Yanzi looked at Jian Yun's expression from the side and could not help but shake her head and sigh. This last probably did not realize it herself. Although she kept saying that she did not like Huo Liancheng, the emotions that she unintentionally revealed betrayed her. She was afraid that she had already moved her heart towards Huo Liancheng a long time ago. Otherwise, she would not be so distressed. At that time, on the 28th floor of the Ming's building. In the CEO's office, Huo Liancheng saw that the phone had been hung up again. He angrily slammed the phone against the wall. The phone fell to the ground and the screen shattered. A few people stood beside him. They all lowered their heads and kept quiet out of fear. Mr. Huo, he said. I'm sorry. I didn't know Miss Jian was... Sister Chen's face was pale. She had never seen Huo Liancheng get angry, and she was afraid. Jian Yun was the one who drove her out. If Huo Liancheng were to pursue the matter, she would be the one to take responsibility. Shut up. Huo Liancheng was already extremely angry. Chapter 265, Abominable to the Extreme. The bodyguard he sent called him and told him that Jian Yun went to the train station after she came out of the hospital. She even went to the train to the capital. However, he did not buy a ticket and could not keep up with her. From then on, Huo Liancheng knew that things were not good. This girl had obviously run away. He had nowhere to vent his anger, especially after he made dozens of phone calls. None of them were picked up. Just now, Jian Yun had even turned off the phone. He even wanted to kill her. Sister Chen, you go back first. This is not your fault. Cheng Muzi had never seen Huo Liancheng lose his composure like this before. He was actually so angry for Jian Yun. But Mr. Huo, Sister Chen looked at Huo Liancheng nervously. She saw him standing in front of the French window with his back facing her. He had his hands on his waist and his tall back was straight. He had a sharp aura. She was nervous and did not dare to move. Let's go. It's okay. Cheng Muzi sympathized with Sister Chen. Jian Yun must have run away because of Huo Liancheng. Sister Chen just gave her a ride along the way. Sister Chen turned around and left when she saw Huo Liancheng didn't say anything. Young master, I've already asked someone to buy tickets for the next train to the capital. I've already followed them. In the office, another man in a black suit said in a deep voice, There's no need to follow her. She didn't go to the capital. Huo Liancheng took a deep breath and calmed his thoughts. But the man in the black suit also realized that the girl was trying to hide from Huo Liancheng. She definitely wouldn't go to a place that they all knew. You go out first, Huo Liancheng ordered. The man in the black suit responded and turned to leave. Cheng Muzi rubbed his chin and looked at Huo Liancheng thoughtfully. Fourth brother, why did you bully Sister Jian? She was so scared that she wanted to run away. Shut up, Huo Liancheng said angrily. If you can do it, why don't you let me tell you? Cheng Muzi curled his lips in disdain. You must have done something amazing. Otherwise, with Sister Jian's personality, she would not have ignored her mother just to avoid you. You can get lost now. Huo Liancheng glared at Cheng Muzi. Fine, I'll get lost. Cheng Muzi felt that it was not the time to ask more questions. He, fourth brother, never liked to talk about his personal matters. He could only ask around. Cheng Muzi went out. Huo was the only one left in the office. Liancheng was left in the office. He suddenly punched the wall. In fact, he was also very depressed. He never thought that Jian Yun was really the first time. Although she had said that she was a virgin, at that time he had thought that she was playing tricks on him to disgust what he said on purpose. He did not expect that what she said was actually true. If he had known this fact, he would not have hurt her like that, no matter what he said last night. Huo Liancheng now thought about it carefully. Last night, he really said a lot of things that he should not have said. He did not care about her begging. He just sat on the floor. Damn it. Huo Liancheng punched the wall again. He lowered his head and looked at the ground, ignoring the blood on his fist. What should he do now? She was hiding. Once he turned off his phone, he would not be able to find her. If he had known this would happen, he would have installed a chip tracking device on her body. This way, even if she ran to the ends of the earth, he would not be afraid of not finding her. Huo Liancheng suddenly felt a little nervous. It had been so many years, but he had never felt so flustered again. He really loved her. After looking for her for so many years, even though he comforted himself earlier, he was not only looking for her, but also for that ring. However, this lie was broken after he met her again. He wanted her. Wanted to keep her by his side forever. However, he had hurt her time and time again. This time, she did not want to forgive him. That was why she had left. Huo Liancheng was silent for a long time. Suddenly, he thought of something. He wanted to take the phone, but in the blink of an eye, he found the phone lying on the ground. It was broken. He could not help frowning. At this time, there was a knock on the door. Fourth brother, I have your phone. Cheng Muzi shouted outside. Aunt is calling. Huo Liancheng opened the door. and took Cheng Mu's phone. After talking to his grandma, he took off Cheng Mu's phone without thinking. He took off his phone card and threw it to Cheng Mu's. He took the phone for himself. Fourth brother, you are too much. You even took advantage of your subordinates. Cheng Mu was very depressed. Although the phone was not worth much money, there were many important photos on his phone. I don't want them. Go. Get me a phone. Huo Liancheng put his phone card into his phone, opened WeChat, and started typing. At the same time, in Yanzi's house in the New North District, Jianyun felt much more comfortable. Yanzi helped her tidy up the guest room. She did not eat and went to sleep. She slept until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, when she woke up from hunger. When Jianyun came out, she saw Yanzi sitting cross-legged on the sofa without any image of a beauty. She was watching TV, and there was a big fruit plate in front of her. When she saw Jianyun come out, she waved her hand. She said, "Come over." "Is it better?" Yanzi asked. "Yes." Jianyun nodded and held her stomach as she asked, "Sister Z, do you have anything to eat? I'm so hungry." "Here, bread and milk. Eat some first. We are going to have dinner later. I booked a seat next to the neighborhood. The house I often go to has a good taste." Yanzi pouted at the tea and signaled Jianyun to look at the bag of bread. "Sister Z, is brother-in-law so assured that you are alone at home? Isn't he afraid that you will cheat?" Jianyun nibbled on the bread and asked curiously. "We are old wives. What do you mean by cheating? Besides, he knows the nature of my job." "It's just a house," Wang Yao said. "That's why I'm at ease." Yanzi smiled. "Do you trust him? Men become bad when they have money. Aren't you afraid that a little girl will look for her brother-in-law?" Jianyun asked again. "Sister, let me tell you, the best medicine to maintain your relationship is to trust each other. If you don't trust each other, then this relationship won't last long. Furthermore, what I liked was that he was honest. I believe that he will not do anything that will be wrong to me. I told him before. Even if he did that, don't let me know. Once I know, our marriage will definitely be over." Yanzi smiled and said honestly, "Sister Z, I have to learn from you. I'm worried too much." Jianyun put down the bread and sighed. Actually, she also understood that if she had told Huo Liancheng the truth from the beginning, it would not have caused so many misunderstandings. It was all laughable pride. It made her reject him again and again, but she also did not want to have feelings for him. Thinking of this, Jianyun was suddenly stunned. How could she have such thoughts? Moreover, even if she took the initiative to tell Huo Liancheng that she was still a virgin, he probably would not believe it. Just like last night, his first reaction was to suspect that she did repair it. It was truly detestable to the extreme. It was also extremely humiliating to her. Chapter 266 Plaza Dance. "Little Jane, what are you thinking about? Are you thinking about handsome Huo?" Yanzi saw that Jianyun was startled and could not help but blink her eyes as she asked with an ambiguous expression. "Yes?" Jianyun did not deny it. She fiercely bit a mouthful of bread and said angrily, "I am thinking, how can there be such a hateful man? Poisoned tongue, cleanliness, coldness, narcissism, violence, rudeness, so many flaws?" Yanzi raised her eyebrows and waved her hand. "Then forget it. Wait for elder sister to introduce you to a man who loves people." "Not interested." Jianyun picked up the milk and took a sip. "I still have to be interested. Come, let me ask you a question. Do you know how many kinds of people there are in this world?" Yanzi pinched Jianyun's bulging face. "Men and women." Jianyun did not even bat an eyelid. "Can't you cooperate with me?" Yanzi narrowed her eyes and her two hands came up together to rub Jianyun's face. "Little sister, don't you understand that being a man and woman together is the true path of heaven and earth? Amazing, even the great Tao of heaven and earth is fabricated. Why don't you talk about the Jade Emperor?" Jianyun rolled her eyes at Yanzi. "Hey, I just want to tell you that men and women are the happiest when they are together. The most beautiful love in the world is always love," Yanzi said with a smile and then changed the topic. All right, don't eat too much. Forget it. Let's go out for a walk and have dinner early. Big sister is going to dance in the square at 5:30. When did your hobby become so strange? Jianyun was shocked. No matter how she looked at Yanzi, she felt that Yanzi was a fashionable and intellectual beauty. No matter what, she could not imagine the scene of her dancing square dance with a group of aunties. "Isn't it too boring to stay at home all day? After sitting for a long time, my butt hurts, my shoulder hurts, and my waist hurts. Dancing in the square is also a form of exercise. Recently my sleep has become better, and I have lost more than 10 pounds. Yanzi said with a smile and even made a few men. "So powerful?" Jianyun raised her eyebrows. She suddenly really wanted to see it. Yanzi led Jianyun to a restaurant outside the district to eat a delicious home-cooked meal. It was still early, so the two of them went to the supermarket for a stroll. When it was almost time, they walked towards the plaza of the district. Now square dancing was popular. In the era of national fitness, there were special public squares for residents live. In large residential areas. At 5:30, the sky was still bright, but there were already a lot of people in the square. They were divided into several areas, and there were many old people and old ladies gathered. The music was playing. Some old ladies were stretching their muscles and warming up. There were also some who were already jumping up and down, along with the rhythm. "Let's go." Yanzi pulled Jian Yun and ran over excitedly. She quickly joined the queue and soon caught up with the rhythm. She stretched her waist and jumped, sleeping in the water. This song was very old, but the melody was very pleasant and the rhythm was also relaxed. Jian Yun sat on a bench by the side and supported her chin as she watched. She felt that these old ladies were very energetic. It seemed that the words "exercise makes people young" were indeed true. When Jian Yun looked at it, she also discovered that Yanzi was not the youngest square dance enthusiast. There were a few teenage girls in this group. They were probably brought out by their own grandmother, and then they danced. Listening to the song and watching the dance, the weather was neither hot nor cold. The crowd was lively and Jian Yun's mood calmed down a little. Not long after, Jian Yun noticed an old lady sitting beside her. The old lady sat down and sighed. Jian Yun turned her head to look at her, and also recognized that this old lady was from Yanzi's dance team. She had been hanging at the back of the group. However, it was clear that she had only learned it not long ago. She was not familiar with the dance movements and could not keep up. "The grandma, why aren't you dancing?" Jian Yun asked. She also noticed that although the old lady was dressed plainly, she had a good temperament. She must have been very pretty when she was young. Moreover, her gestures were scholarly, and she looked very friendly. The old lady turned her head and looked at Jian Yun. Then she let out a long sigh. "Sigh, I'm too stupid. I've been learning for a few days, but I still can't learn. Find someone to teach you or follow the tutorial." Jian Yun smiled. She looked at this old lady and felt very close to her. Seeing her sigh at this time, she could not help but want to comfort her. "There were 2 people who taught me. Here, that Miss Yan who was with you taught me. But first I taught, and then I forgot. I am old. This memory is not good," the old lady said with a bitter face. Jian Yun felt that this old lady's bitter face was really cute, like a child. She could not help but laugh. "Grandma, how about this? I will teach you." "You?" The old lady looked Jian Yun up and down and said hesitantly. "You? Little girl, you're not from this neighborhood, are you? I have never seen you before. Do you know how to dance?" "I'm Sister Yan's sister. I just came today." Jian Yun had learned dancing for more than 10 years. Seeing others dance made her cells itch. She had wanted to dance with them for a long time. Seeing that the old lady did not believe her, she immediately stood up and stretched her waist. She made a backup gesture and said with a smile, "Grandma, why don't I dance once for you to see? You decide whether or not you want me to teach you." When the old lady saw Jian Yun do this posture of completely pressing her waist down, she was shocked to the point her mouth opened wide. Jian Yun had already started dancing with the music. Compared to professional dancing, this kind of square dance that was suitable for the masses was too child's play. Although she only saw it once, it was not the slightest bit different from dancing exactly the same. Furthermore, her figure was good. She was pretty and young. That seemingly ordinary dance movements after she performed it actually made people feel incomparably graceful. Quite a number of people nearby came over to watch. After Jian Yun finished her dance, she saw that the old lady's eyes lit up with excitement. She clapped repeatedly and excitedly pulled Jian Yun's hand. "Little girl, you dance really well. Are you really willing to teach me?" "I am willing." Jian Yun squinted her eyes and smiled. "I came to take a vacation. I usually have nothing to do, so I will teach you. I can do some activities while I'm at it, killing 2 birds with 1 stone." "That's great." The old lady was extremely happy. "My surname is Liao. Little girl, what's your name?" "Granny Liao, you can call me Yun." Jian Yun smiled. However, after teaching Granny Liao, Jian Yun also realized that Granny Liao was very smart. She knew it as soon as she learned it, but she forgot about her personality. She had just taught her how to move, but when she turned around, she forgot about it. But Jian Yun was still very patient. She broke down the movements over and over again. When she saw the old lady, she thought of her grandmother. These elders had worked hard all their lives, and it was not easy for them to have a hobby in their later years. When she saw it, she would naturally help if she could. Chapter 267. A Special Old Lady. After teaching for half an hour, Granny Liao was finally able to jump the first 1/3 of the movements of the water village in the dream. Jian Yun wiped her sweat and smiled. "Grandma will learn so much today. Go back and practice properly. You have to consolidate it." Good. Thank you for your hard work today." Granny Liao was very happy and then asked worriedly, "Little Yin, how many days are you staying here? Don't tell me you will leave tomorrow?" "No, I will stay for a while." Jian Yun narrowed her eyes and smiled. "Then I am relieved." Granny Liao let out a sigh of relief. At this time, another old man walked over and rubbed his hands. He asked, "Young lady, when you teach Auntie Liao, can you teach me too? Old man, do you want to learn too?" Jian Yun looked at the old man who kept glancing at Granny Liao and did not know what their relationship was. She only smiled and said, "Old grandpa, at this time tomorrow night, if you want to learn, you can stay here together." The grandpa left in satisfaction. Yanzi was covered in sweat and came over to hug Jian Yun's shoulder and said, go back, take a bath." "Aunt Liao, are we going back? Let's go together." She turned her head and saw Granny Liao. She greeted her warmly and explained to Jian Yun, "Sister, Granny Liao lives next door to our house." "Okay." Granny Liao smiled and picked up the cup of water on the chair and walked side by side with Yanzi and Jian Yun. After entering the corridor, Granny Liao suddenly pulled Jian Yun and said with a conflicted expression, "Little Yun, are you free tomorrow night? Why don't you come to my house to teach me? I don't want to learn together with old Li. He has such a serious fox stench. It's so pungent." Jian Yun was stunned for a moment and could not help but laugh. "Okay, I'm fine these few days. You can learn whenever you want. Writer Yan, your sister is really good. She is so pretty and has a good heart." Granny Liao smiled and praised. After parting with Granny Liao, Yanzi took the key and opened the door. She asked Jian Yun, "What do you think of Aunt Liao?" "What do you think? Hey, you call her auntie and I call her grandma. We are lacking generation." Jian Yun curled her lips. "She is not really related. What does that have to do with her?" Yanzi opened the door and entered the house. She changed her shoes and asked Jian Yun with a mysterious expression, "Don't you realize that old Granny Liao's temperament is very special? Our neighborhood is spreading that she's the wife of some high official. Her temperament is very good. She does not look like an ordinary person." Jian Yun nodded. She and Yanzi did not discuss this topic much. The two of them each took a bathroom. After taking a bath, Yanzi started to go online and process the reader's comments. Jian Yun thought for a while and still picked up her phone. She had to call her mother and tell her that she was safe. Jian Yun had just turned on her phone when she noticed that she had received many messages. She clicked on it and looked at it. It was Wu Wenjing who said, "Jian Yun, where did you go? Why is your phone turned off? Jian Yun, do you know that President Huo is looking for you? Jian Yun, did you fight with President Huo? What did he do to you? Did he hit you or scold you? Tell me. Jian Yun, hurry up and reply to me. I'm so worried." Jian Yun looked down again and saw Xu Haiyang's message. There were only 3 words. "Sorry." Jian Yun bit her lips and stared at the 3 words. Her eyes flashed coldly. She replayed what happened last night in her mind. Thinking about it now, she realized that Xu Haiyang had probably planned it out. If Huo Liancheng did not appear suddenly, she would have been brought to a certain place by Xu Haiyang. As for the result, it would not be any different from what happened to her later. Jian Yun directly deleted Xu Haiyang's message and then sent a WeChat message to Wu Wenjing. "I'm fine. I'm out to relax." In WeChat, Huo Liancheng's profile picture was also dark. He did not say anything the whole time. Jian Yun inexplicably felt her chest tighten. She immediately logged out of WeChat and called Wu Yangfei. Wu Yangfei did not find anything wrong, but when Jian Yun was about to hang up the phone, she heard Wu Yangfei hesitantly ask, "Yunduo, did you and Liancheng quarrel? He rushed over to look for you this morning, but did not see you. He left again." "Mom, no. I still have things to do here. Wait for me to go back and tell you." Jian Yun did not say much. She only said a few short words and hung up the phone. At the same time, Huo Liancheng dialed Jian Yun's phone. When he found that the phone was busy, he was overjoyed. This meant that she had turned on the phone. However, when he called again, the phone was switched off again. Huo Liancheng's face was so gloomy that it could drip water. This girl dared to treat him like this. Cheng Muzi, who was driving, glanced at Huo Liancheng in the rearview mirror. He was very smart and did not say anything. The next day when he just got up, Yanzi pulled Jian Yun to go shopping. She said that she would help Jian Yun relax her mood. When they arrived at the busy market, Jian Yun only found out that Yanzi wanted to do her hair and pulled her over to accompany her. Coincidentally, Jian Yun was also tired of her long black hair, so she cut it short to shoulder length and dyed it red. She even scalded the lower part. Once this hairstyle was done, even the hairstylist was stunned. "Beauty's hairstyle is really suitable for you. It looks lively and bright." Jian Yun herself was very satisfied. After changing her hairstyle, her mood became better. "Let's go and buy clothes." Yanzi cut her long hair short. She looked capable and neat, but it was too short. With her words, it was convenient to be short. She would dry her hair after washing it. There was no need to waste time. Jian Yun and Yanzi walked all the way until it was dark before returning home. Just when they reached the door, she found Granny Liao standing in front of the door and talking on the phone. When she turned her head and saw Jian Yun and Yanzi coming over, her eyes immediately lit up. She gave a thumbs up and said, "The person on the other side of the phone should be baffled by these 2 words." Granny Liao immediately explained with a look of disdain, "Didn't I say you were pretty? What is a big man like you pretty?" "I mean the 2 sisters," Jian Yun and Yanzi pursed their lips and smiled. She waved at Granny Liao and Hell. Not long after, Jian Yun heard someone knocking on the door. She walked over and took a look. It was Granny Liao. She quickly opened the door. "Grandma, have you finished your paw?" "Ah, yes. It's my grandson. He is worried that I will live here alone. Every few days, he would call and annoy me." Granny Liao looked like she was complaining, but her eyes were full of smiles. "By the way, Xiao Yun, do you have time to teach me now? I almost forgot about that last night." Granny Liao felt a little embarrassed when she said that. "Grandma, please come and sit first. I will pack my things." Jian Yun was packing up the clothes she bought today. She had gained a lot today. It seemed that when she was in a bad mood, she would go and buy clothes. It was indeed very healing. Jian Yun had just finished packing up when she went to the next room with Granny Liao. She naturally had to do what she promised, so she spent the whole night teaching Granny Liao to remember the dance moves. In the next few days, Jian Yun even made up a very considerate and smooth tongue to help Granny Liao remember. This move was indeed very useful. Granny Liao could finally remember the dance moves completely, and she would not fall behind even if she followed the team to dance. These days, other than calling her mother every night, Jin Yun had turned off her phone and did not contact anyone. She also read WeChat. However, Huo Liancheng did not say anything in the end. Chapter 268, Your wife ran off with somebody. It had been a week, but there was still no news of Huo Liancheng. It could only mean one thing. He didn't care. When Jian thought of this, a trace of disappointment and bitterness welled up in her heart. However, she immediately laughed coldly. He did not trust her at all. He even asked her to scram. What was there to be bitterly disappointed about? Furthermore, that last night, she had gone crazy. In his words, it was just a bit of return. Therefore, whether it was her first time or not, was no longer important. Jian Yun did not want to think about it anymore. This kind of feeling of loss and loss made her look down on herself. On one hand, she told herself that she hated Huo Liancheng. On the other hand, she felt that he was not like before here. He had sent her a message in the past and explained to her that he was apologizing to her. She was really crazy. The more Jian Yun settled down, the more she felt that Huo Liancheng did not like her as much as he said. Perhaps he liked her in the beginning, but she did not give her face and was too self-contained, so he did not have any patience. Later on, when he went on a business trip, he could not call her for many days. This was an obvious example. Hello, Jian Yun, why are you in a daze? Yanzi changed her clothes and came out. She found Jian Yun was still sitting there with her phone in her hand. No one knew what she was thinking. She rushed over and slapped Jian Yun on the shoulder. Ah, you scared me. Jian Yun patted her heart and looked at Yanzi reproachfully. Yanzi blinked her eyes and asked with bad intentions. Don't tell me you're thinking about your family's handsome Huo, right? That's right, he was on the news just now, on some economic forum. I'll look for him for you. As she spoke, Yanzi took out her phone and swiped it a few times. She clicked on a news video and handed it to Jian Yun without any explanation. Look, how handsome. Sister has never seen such a handsome man before. Sigh, I'm so jealous of you, little Jane. Are you jealous of me being abused? Jian Yun only glanced at him once and then looked away. She looked a little unnatural. Actually, to be honest, if he is willing to torture me, I can't ask for more. Ha ha ha, women who are willing to be abused by him will definitely be ranked in the imperial capital from here. Yanzi said in all seriousness. Are you sick? Jian Yun rolled her eyes. Okay, stop joking. Let's go and dance. Yanzi pulled Jian Yun and left. In 2 days, the community would hold a square dance competition. Just the residential area where Yanzi lived had 4 teams registering for the competition. The competition was very intense, so the square in the residential area could be said to be very lively these few days. Yen, Z, and the rest practiced dancing until late at night every day, and even mobilized Jian Yun to participate as the leader of their team. Jian Yun's team's participating song was the divine song Little Apple. These few days, the team members had memorized the movements and were practicing synchronization. Granny Liao practiced until almost 9:30 before returning home. At home, the computer was on, and someone asked for a video. Granny Liao had just clicked accept when a young man's handsome face appeared in front of her. The man was very handsome, and his brows were masculine, but his expression was a little cold. Grandma, you are so old and you are not at home. What are you doing at night? Stinking brat, is there anyone who speaks to Grandma like this? Granny Liao drank a mouthful of water, but her mood was very good. Grandma now has found a goal in life. I dance square dance every day. I am very happy. I will not argue with you. With your goldfish's 7 seconds of memory, you can still dance? The man clearly didn't believe it. Do your team tolerate you being a burden? Stinking brat, that's enough. Granny Liao's face could not hold it anymore. She snorted coldly and said proudly, Now I found a good teacher to teach me. The teacher lives next door to me. She is pretty and has a good heart. I am the 3rd best person in our team to jump. There are only 3 people in the team? The man continued to scold her. Huo Liancheng, if you keep talking to me like that, I will beat you up. Granny Liao slammed the table in anger and shouted. Huo Liancheng curled his lips. So stingy. Humph, I heard your girlfriend ran away with someone. How can you sit here and chat with me? Shouldn't you be hiding in the toilet and crying? Granny Liao could not beat Huo Liancheng, so she started to poke his heart. Remove the word follow. Huo Liancheng's handsome face turned black. Granny Liao could feel the cold air and anger from the computer. Not bad. Anyway, your girlfriend is missing. I said so. You're right. Tut. Since when did your personal charm not work? This girl definitely doesn't like you. Otherwise, how could she ignore your handsome face and run away with someone? Is there something wrong with your function? Granny Liao specially picked up the unpleasant words to say. Say it again. I will tell grandfather that you are in Qinghu City. Huo Liancheng threatened. The weather is good tonight. Have you eaten? By the way, let me tell you a secret. It's the 2 beauties who live next to me. I suspect they are lesbians. Guess what I found out? The first time I saw a little girl, I actually found a kiss mark on her neck and a bite mark. Granny Liao quickly changed the topic. Grandma, didn't you say that the sister next door is the teacher who taught you? You are so gossipy about other people's private life. Isn't that a bit insincere? Huo Liancheng was speechless. I was just joking. Ha ha ha. All right, I won't talk to you anymore. I'm going to take a shower and sleep. I'm going to have a competition in 2 days, so I need to conserve my energy. By the way, are you free? Come and watch our competition when you're free. I'll introduce you to my little teacher. The little girl is really pretty. You forgot your girlfriend who ran away with someone. Go. Granny Liao did not wait for Huo Liancheng to respond and immediately closed the video chat. Miss, the bath water is ready. I have boiled some soup. Do you want some? At this time, an old lady in her 60s walked out of the kitchen and said to Granny Liao with a smile, Kuirong, you go and rest. I am going to participate in the competition in 2 days. I can't eat at night and don't cook anymore in the future. Granny Liao walked to the washroom and advised Kuirong, you have followed me for decades, and it is time for you to enjoy yourself. This time I asked you not to follow me. If you insist on coming, how nice would it be to bring your grandson home? Miss, I am worried about you, Kuirong said helplessly. Your character hasn't changed for decades, and you ran away from home when you quarreled with young master. Can I rest assured? Okay, Kuirong said. Don't mention that old man, he's annoying to listen to. Granny Liao waved her hand. She waved her hand and went to the bathroom. At that moment, Huo Liancheng hung up the video call and sat alone in the empty house. He leaned back on the sofa and pinched between his eyebrows. He was in a bad mood. That girl had not given him any news or contacted him. She only called her mother 2 minutes a day. He was really unhappy. But what could he do? Looking for her? She was obviously hiding from him and would definitely not be found by him. Although he could use his connections to find her, if his family found out about this, those old fellows would definitely turn their anger onto her. Chapter 269. Let me introduce you to my grandson. Huo Liancheng picked up his phone and clicked on Jianyun's profile picture. However, after looking at it for a while, he put it down without doing anything. What did he say? Did he apologize? But would she be willing to listen? That girl was as stubborn as a donkey. If she had told him the truth from the start, would there have been any misunderstandings and prejudices later on? Huo Liancheng couldn't help but scratch his hair. He smiled bitterly. He felt that he had never been so troubled in the past 30 years. Moreover, all of his troubles were because of a woman, but he really missed her. He really wanted to be like before, hugging her. These days, when she was not around, he was really lonely. It was as if he had returned to that painful period of time. In the next 2 days, the 4 square dance teams in the district entered the final sprint phase. But compared to the other 3 teams, they had Jianyun as their support team. The Queen of Heaven's Earth dancers were obviously much better in their movements and in their choreography. It looked like they were much better. It was almost the last day of the competition when the dance team had custom-made clothes. It was the national style. When a group of old ladies wore them, they looked strangely harmonious and beautiful. Today was the 10th day Jianyun came to Yanzi's house. Other than going to dance every day, she almost lived a life isolated from the world. Fortunately, Yanzi, the great god who lived in seclusion, accompanied her. Jianyun was not lonely. On this day, Jianyun just got up and saw Yanzi squatting by her bed. Her eyes were bright as she looked at her. Can you help? What for? Jianyun saw Yanzi like this and knew that there was nothing good. Nothing much. It was just a friend who opened a Western restaurant. It turns out that there was a piano performer who applied for leave. He asked me to find someone to replace him, so I thought of you. Yanzi waved her hand and said, When are you going? Jianyun lifted the blanket and got off the bed. How many years had she played the piano for? To her, this was not a problem at all. I will play for 2 hours tomorrow afternoon. I will give you this number, Jianyun said. Yanzi made a gesture of 8. The reward does not matter. If it is your friend, it is just a small matter. Jianyun put Yanzi's hand back. Aya, I knew you are the best, Jane. Yanzi happily hugged Jianyun and kissed her on the face. Jianyun turned her head away and pushed Yanzi's face away with a look of disgust. You haven't brushed your teeth yet. Stay away from me. Disgusting. Yanzi raised her orchid finger. She made a gesture like she was singing a song and turned to leave. Jianyun finished washing up and had breakfast. Looking at the time, it was almost 9:30. She remembered that she was going to help Granny Liao change into her dancing clothes this morning. Granny Liao said that the outfit she got now was too big. Sister Z, I'm going to Granny Liao's house. I'll be back in a while. Jianyun greeted Yanzi, who was typing in the study room. Yes, if you go out, bring me the egg yolk. If you don't go out, then forget it. Yanzi called out in confusion. Jianyun replied and grabbed her phone and wallet before going out the door. She went to Granny Liao's house and rang the doorbell. Kuirong came over and opened the door. Jianyun came over every day to teach Granny Liao how to dance and was very familiar with Kuirong. Sometimes when Kuirong boiled soup, she would also send it to her and Yanzi. Grandma Kui. Jianyun called sweetly. Little Yun is here. Come in quickly. Miss is in the study with the young master in a video. I will go and call her. Quiron liked Jianyun very much. When she saw Jianyun come over, she hurriedly called for her to come in. Then she turned around and went to the study room. Miss, little Yun is here. Granny Liao, who was in the middle of a video call with Huo Liancheng, was immediately very excited. It's my little teacher who came. Do you want me to call her over and show you? Grandma can guarantee that you will like her. Huo Liancheng's handsome face was cold as he replied. Not interested. Granny Liao curled her lips. Humph, just wait and see. If you really like her, then kneel down and beg Grandma, and Grandma won't introduce you. All right, since you don't like it, I plan to introduce her to Chengmu's that brat. I think that brat will definitely like her. Grandma, I probably don't have time to watch your competition. I'm participating in that economic forum these few days. I can't leave. Huo Liancheng was not interested in the square dance competition that made Granny Liao so excited. He was not in the mood to watch a group of old men and old women dancing square dance with divine songs. I know. You are the only busy one. How boring. You are just like your grandfather, Granny Liao said angrily. Huo Liancheng was speechless. All right, wait for me. I still have something to ask you. I'll go tell the young teacher about the size of the clothes and come. Granny Liao was afraid that Jianyun would be anxious and quickly walked to the living room. Xiaoyun, you are here. Come quickly. There are fruits and chocolate on the table. Eat first. I will go and get the clothes. Granny Liao waved at Jianyun and went back into the bedroom. Huo Liancheng put his phone on the table and started to read the documents. He did not care when he heard Granny Liao call Xiaoyun, because Granny Liao had typed the word Yun into his chat with him. He was not crazy enough to hear the name and thought it was Jianyun. Jianyun came many times and did not stand on ceremony. She took a piece of chocolate from the table and started to eat. When she heard Quiron call Granny Liao, she knew that what Yanzi told her before was right. Granny Liao's background was definitely not ordinary. She was not a high official but also a wealthy family. The food she used to eat was imported. Just this chocolate was handmade, imported from Italy. The chocolate was indeed delicious. It melted as soon as it entered the mouth. Little Yun, do you like this chocolate? There are many more here. Miss and I don't eat much. You can bring them back to eat. Quiron took out a box from the drawer and stuffed it into Jianyun's hand without any explanation. Jianyun quickly waved her hand and rejected. Grandma Kui, there is no need. I cannot eat that much. If you guys do not eat, you can give it to Granny Liao's grandson to eat. Haha, Mrs. Grandson? Young master is already 30 years old and he doesn't eat these things since he was young. Little Yun, just take it if I give it to you. After eating, there are still more. It's a pity that young master has a strange personality and has never liked women. Otherwise, if Miss likes you so much, she would want you to be her granddaughter-in-law. Quiron laughed and said, Haha, Grandma Kui really knows how to joke. Jianyun felt a little embarrassed when she heard that. She did not even know who Granny Liao's grandson was, and only these two old ladies said it enthusiastically. Little Yun, come, quickly help me see if this dress is too big. Granny Liao also changed out of her dancing clothes at this time. She walked a few rounds left and right to let Jianyun see. It is indeed big. Grandma, the number you are wearing is gone. I will bring it to you to find a tailor to change it. Jianyun squatted down and gestured Granny Liao's size. She looked up and smiled. Okay, then I will have to trouble you. Granny Liao rolled her eyes and pulled Jianyun towards the study room. Little Yun, I heard from writer Yan that you don't have a boyfriend. Come, let me introduce you to my grandson. We are currently watching a video. Do you want to come and see him? He is very handsome. He is 186 centimeters tall. Other than his facial paralysis, he does not have any flaws or bad habits. You can really consider it. Chapter 270. He found it. Jianyun was so scared that she waved her hand and held onto the door frame, refusing to let go. Granny Liao, let's just forget about it. I don't want to talk about boyfriends for the time being. Hey, why are you like this? I'm not bragging. My grandson's condition is that all the women around the world chase after him. If you follow him, you will have nothing to worry about for the rest of your life. Take a look first. If you don't like it, then forget it, okay? Granny Liao enthusiastically coaxed her. No. The conditions are too good. I'm afraid I don't deserve it. Haha, Grandma, I appreciate your kindness. I really don't want to fall in love. Hurry up and take off your clothes and give them to me. I'll bring them to you to change. Jianyun laughed. She had a man that all the women in the world fought over by her side. But so what? He was still a beast with a human face and a beast heart. Sigh, I'm so disappointed. Why don't you all cooperate with me? Granny Liao saw that Jianyun persisted and could not force her anymore. She could only let out a sigh of relief. She was very disappointed. Grandma, don't be anxious. You are so cute. You will definitely find a satisfactory granddaughter-in-law. Jianyun comforted. But I am satisfied with you. Granny Liao did not want to give up. Jianyun's mouth twitched. She could only use a big move. Actually, Granny Liao, I want to tell you a secret. You have to promise not to tell anyone. What secret? Granny Liao asked curiously. When one was old, one would sometimes be like a child. Granny Liao was like this. Usually she was noble and reserved at home for the rest of her life. When she came out of her old age, she met a group of old people about the same age. She felt like she had entered a new brain. Her character had become much more, "Actually, I don't like men, I like women." Jianyun deliberately pretended to be shy. Her toes rubbed against the floor and said with a red face. As soon as she said that, she heard a dull sound. It was as if something had fallen to the ground. However, the sound was a little far away. It seemed to come from the video on the computer. Jianyun only took a glance and then looked away. She was not interested in Granny Liao's grandson at all. So it's like this? Sigh. Then it can only be said that fate has no place. Granny Liao was very disappointed, but then she immediately had a look of understanding. Actually, I have already seen some signs of it. You and Ryer Yan are gay, right? Jianyun was almost choked to death by her own saliva. She felt that she really could not continue chatting with Granny Liao, so she could only urge her to quickly take off her clothes and then run away. What a good girl. Guirong was also sighing. Why did she fall in love with women? By the way, miss, what do you mean by lesbian? I'll tell you later. Granny Liao saw that Jianyun had left and continued to enter the study to video Huo Liancheng, but before she could speak, she heard Huo Liancheng urgently ask, Grandma, the little Yun you are talking about is the lady who just arrived? Yes, it's her. She's a very good girl. She can teach me how to dance with patience. I like her. Granny Liao said. Grandma, I remember now. The economic forum has been postponed to next week. I have time the day after tomorrow. I can go and watch your competition. Huo Liancheng's voice was filled with uncontrollable excitement. Okay, if you come, bring some chocolate. Little master likes to eat it. Granny Liao reminded him a few more times and asked about Huo Liancheng's grandfather's situation. Then, she hung up the video chat. At that time, Huo Liancheng could not stop the corner of his mouth from rising. He really did not expect that the girl would hide next to his grandmother's house after searching all over the world. Who would dare to say that this was not arranged by fate? Huo Liancheng couldn't wait to press the internal phone. Arrange it. Let's go to the New North District. Cheng Mu's was very surprised. To see Aunt's square dance competition? Yes. Huo Liancheng didn't say much. He couldn't wait to go. An hour later, Huo Liancheng arrived at the New North District. However, he did not go to Granny Liao's house to wait. Instead, he parked his car in the parking lot near the plaza. Fourth brother, are you inspecting your clothes? Why are you sitting in the car? Cheng Muze felt strange. He didn't understand why Huo Liancheng didn't go to the economic forum. He suddenly wanted to see a group of old ladies dancing in the square. Huo Liancheng ignored Cheng Mu's. He closed his eyes and leaned against the back seat. He seemed to be asleep. He heard music in the square. It was the song Lil Apple. He immediately opened his eyes. Huh? Am I seeing things? Why do I seem to have seen Sister Jan? Cheng Muze had been leaning against the window and looking at the square. He also understood why Huo Liancheng parked his car here. The slope was high, and the square was clearly visible from above. Huo Liancheng also looked over there. He saw a young and beautiful woman in the crowd. She had a bun on her head. She was wearing a long-sleeved t-shirt with suspenders on the outside. The belt on one side of her shoulders was loose. She looked so young that she looked like an apple hanging on a branch. She looked extremely attractive. She was a little fatter and looked good. When she was with a group of old people and old ladies, she always had a smile on her face. She patiently corrected every old man's dance movements. Huo Liancheng's eyes were burning. He could not even bear to blink his eyes. He was afraid that if he blinked, she would disappear from his life again. The music started. Jianyun stood in front of the group and directed a group of old ladies to dance. Not long after, she also joined in. The little apple kept repeating itself over and over again. Suddenly, it became a boundless world of love. Cheng Mu's face showed a painful expression. Just when he wanted to cover his ears, he suddenly heard Huo Liancheng sigh. This song is really good. What the hell? Cheng Mu's suddenly looked at Huo Liancheng as if he was looking at an alien. Fourth brother, when did your taste become so strange? Huo Liancheng ignored him and continued to enjoy the dance of the little apple square. Of course, he would be more satisfied if Jianyun did not dance alone without those old men and old ladies. Jianyun danced for a while as if something had happened and left. Huo Liancheng waited for the old man and old lady to leave and did not see her return. He could not help but feel disappointed. Fourth brother, why are you looking here? Can't you just go and find Sister Jian? Cheng Muzi had been poisoned by the divine song for a few hours. His eyes were staring straight. His mind was still buzzing with the lyrics. You are my little apple. That was why he could not figure out the purpose of Huo Liancheng's series of strange actions. I like it. Huo Liancheng saw that there were only a few people left on the field, so he did not wait and ordered Cheng Mu's to go to the hotel. Not going to Aunt's house? Cheng Mu's was even more puzzled. Not for now. Huo Liancheng narrowed his eyes. Cheng Muze shrugged and started the car. Jianyun felt a little uneasy the whole afternoon. She kept feeling that someone was watching her. This feeling was not good. It reminded her of the scene where Huo Liancheng arranged bodyguards to follow her. She wondered if Huo Liancheng's people would come. Chapter 271, to Alice. However, if Huo Liancheng's men were here, would she still be able to stay at home as safe as she was now? Jian Yun was very hesitant. Yanzi saw that she was in a bad mood, so she sat over and asked, "What's wrong?" "Nothing, I just feel a little nervous." Jian Yun covered her heart and said with a frown, "What are you panicking about? Do you miss your man?" Yanzi nibbled on the apple and looked at Jian Yun from the corner of her eyes. "Yes, she only panicked when she thought of him." Jian Yun said seriously, "Also, he is not my man." "You do not know how to feel when you are blessed." Yanzi pointed at Jian Yun's head with her finger. "There are so many women who want to have sex with Huo Liancheng, but you still run away. Sister Z, you are not me. You will not understand." Jian Yun smiled bitterly. "What would you do if someone scolded you for being dirty?" "Take a bath," Yanzi answered very quickly. "It's not that it's dirty outside." Jian Yun rolled her eyes. "I'm just an ex-boyfriend. He actually called me dirty." "He has that virgin complex?" Yanzi raised her eyebrows. "He said he did not. He said he did not care about what happened to me in the past, and scolded me, dirty, sexy." Jian Yun was still very angry when she thought about it now. If it was not for asking him for help, she would have ignored him long ago. She felt that he looked down on her. "When you said that, my favorability towards him decreased to 0. Why does a grown man say that about his own woman?" Yanzi placed the apple on the coffee table, picked up a wet towel and wiped her hands. She frowned and said, "But from the perspective of the people around me, he must like you very much, or rather, he loves you very much." "You like a person, do you know how to scold him like that?" Jian Yun scoffed. "No." Yanzi shook her head and then nodded. "But if I love and hate him, I think I will do the same." "But I did not do anything to make him hate me." Jian Yun counted her fingers and said with a sneer, "Maybe he did." Yanzi reached out and patted Jian Yun's shoulder. "I think you need to have a good talk with him. Hiding like this is not a solution. You can't hide from him for the rest of your life." "I don't." Jian Yun also knew that her life still had to continue. She could not always stay with Yanzi, but she was not ready to face everything. However, she had thought about it these few days. If she went back this time, she would definitely resign. She really needed to have a good talk with Huo Liancheng. If this continued, she would definitely go crazy. She would be driven crazy by his inexplicable changes. The next afternoon, Yanzi drove Jian Yun to the French restaurant located in the city center. She made a phone call beforehand, and her friend was already waiting at the door. When Jian Yun got down from the front passenger seat, she saw a man in his 30s. He looked dignified and had a very refined temperament as he stood in front of the door. "Is it Miss Jian?" When the man saw Jian Yun, his eyes lit up, and he immediately welcomed her. "I am. You must be Mr. Wang." Jian Yun smiled. She had put on makeup today. She wore a sapphire blue dress and a white cardigan. Her hair was shoulder length and her hair was slightly curly. Her entire person was bright and moving. One look, and one could not move their eyes away. When Wang Chunjing saw Jian Yun smile at him, he immediately felt a sense of overwhelmed favor in his heart. He hurriedly welcomed Jian Yun and Yanzi in. Hey, your eyeballs are about to fall out." Yanzi did not forget to tease Wang Chunjing as she walked. "Haha, Sister Yan, you still like to joke so much." Wang Chunjing was embarrassed by what she said. When he saw Jian Yun pursed her lips and smiled, his face became even redder. He touched his nose and said shyly, "I made Miss Jian laugh." Jian Yun raised her eyebrows. She felt very surprised. In this day and age, there was actually such a shy and blushing man. The speed at which he blushed was comparable to the speed she had. Okay, where's the piano? I have never heard my family's Jane play the piano on the spot." Yanzi entered the restaurant and looked around. "Miss Jian, do you want to take a break?" Wang Chunjing was very attentive. "No need. It has been a while since I played the piano. I need to find the feeling of playing the piano." Jian Yun smiled. Since she agreed to help, she had to do it well. Otherwise, she would not look good if she embarrassed herself later. "Okay, I will bring you there." Wang Chunjing led the way and led Jian Yun and Yanzi to the piano in the middle of the restaurant. Jian Yun's eyes lit up when she saw the piano. It seemed that this boss Wang was very willing to part with it. This piano was not cheap at first glance. Although it was not as good as the one in Huo Liancheng's house, it was still considered the best. Thinking of this, Jian Yun suddenly froze because she suddenly remembered that she and Huo Liancheng had lived together for so long. She had never played the piano in his house until now. "Miss Jian?" Wang Chunjing saw that Jian Yun did not speak and thought that this piano did not satisfy her, so he quickly said, "Is it because the piano is not good?" "Oh no." Jian Yun came back to her senses and quickly smiled. She put her handbag beside her, sat down and began to audition. It was still early, and there was no one in the restaurant. Jian Yun practiced for a while. After all, she played for more than 10 years and was considered a professional. It did not take long before she found the feeling. Wang Chunjing was clearly also knowledgeable. When he heard Jian Yun play the piano, his face revealed a stunned expression. His eyes were burning, and he could not look away from Jian Yun's face no matter what. Jian Yun started playing at 4:30. Yanzi said that she could play until 6, and Jian Yun did not feel any pressure. It was just that there seemed to be a lot of people in the Western restaurant tonight, and many people did not eat. They just stared at Jian Yun and watched her play the piano, making Jian Yun feel like she was having a concert. In the last half an hour, Someone came over to ask if she could order some music. Jianyun smiled politely. If I can, I can. Very quickly, many people sent over notes. Jianyun picked out a few pieces of music from them, and the restaurant instantly turned into a music hall. Not long after, someone came over. That person handed a piece of paper to Jianyun. On it was a line of beautiful handwritten words. There were only 4 words, to Alice. Jianyun looked at it and was about to play the piano when she suddenly turned her head to look at the paper in the person's hand. This time, her expression instantly became strange and there was a flash of fear in her eyes. She subconsciously looked around, and her expression also changed as she whispered to the person who handed the paper. This word. Who wrote it? My boss wrote it. The person who came smiled very amicably. Jianyun bit her lips and ignored the strange looks from the people around her. She hesitated for a long time but still asked, Is your boss surnamed Wo? Madam, why do you ask that? The person raised his eyebrows and did not answer directly. Instead, he looked at her with a smile. No, it's nothing. Jianyun was a little embarrassed. She felt that she had overreacted. It was just that the handwriting was a little similar. She actually felt that it was written by Huo Liancheng. Jianyun did not ask any more questions. Her 10 fingers flew and played this romantic song on the piano keys. However, she felt a little uneasy. She felt that there was a pair of eyes staring at her in an unknown corner. Moreover, her English name was Alice. At this moment, Jianyun had a strange feeling, as if this song was specially given to her. No matter if the person who ordered the song was Huo Liancheng or not, she could not stay any longer. Chapter 272 Magical Fate. After the song was finished, Jianyun immediately stood up and lifted the hem of her dress to come down from the stage. Wang Chunjing came over and Yan Zi, who had been accompanying Jianyun, asked, What's wrong? Go to the toilet? Mr. Wang, I'm sorry. I feel a little uncomfortable. Can I come here tonight? Jianyun smiled apologetically at Wang Chunjing. Why did you suddenly feel uncomfortable? Is it because the air here is too stuffy? When Yanzi heard these words, she immediately nervously rubbed Jianyun's head and grabbed her hand again. Yes, it is a bit stuffy. When Jianyun said this, she suddenly felt a pair of sinister eyes staring at her from behind. She did not even dare to turn her head and hurriedly urged Yanzi to leave. Miss Jian, I will send you back. Wang Chunjing wanted to be a flower protector. The first time he saw Jianyun, he was stunned. He clearly wanted to pursue her. No need, thank you. Jianyun felt sweat on her back. She felt her scalp go numb and quickly rejected Wang Chunjing. She grabbed Yanzi's hand and rushed out. How could Wang Chunjing give up such a good opportunity? Even if he was rejected, he still chased out without saying anything. At that time, in the private room on the 2nd floor, there was a person standing at the window of the hall. The man crossed his arms and squinted his eyes as he looked downstairs. His expression was gloomy, and the expression on his handsome face was terrifyingly cold. Fourth brother, looks like Sister Jian is more comfortable leaving you. Ha ha! Cheng Muz said with a smile as he ate the goose liver. Sister Jian? Is she the woman that Laosi likes? Everyone present. There was another man in the room. He was older than Huo Liancheng. He was good-looking and wore glasses. He looked gentle and steady. Yes, fourth sister-in-law. Cheng Muz wiped his mouth with a napkin in satisfaction. He hummed a song. You are my little apple. I don't care how much I love you. Why didn't you say so earlier? Otherwise, I would have gone down to see what you look like, but you play the piano well. The man slammed the table with an annoyed expression. Then he turned to Cheng Muz and said, Hey, Cheng Muzes, can you not keep singing this song? No. Cheng Muze continued to hum the song. You are the most beautiful cloud in my heart. The man who kept you. You are mighty and majestic. Brother Luo, here you are. Cheng Muz motioned for Luo Hao to look at Huo Liancheng. Then he whispered, I don't know what he did to fourth sister-in-law. Fourth sister-in-law ran away. She must have found fourth brother here. Fourth sister-in-law was so scared that she ran away again. Fourth, what did you do to her? Logically speaking, your face, this young lady should not have any resistance. She actually ran away. Then you must have done something amazing. And the one with the short hair next to sister-in-law is a woman, right? It looks like they have a good relationship, but what woman cut her hair so short? Luo Hao's eyes lit up. Huo Liancheng acted as if he did not hear what Cheng Muz and Luo Hao said. He picked up his coat from the chair and walked out the door. At the same time, Jianyun was already sitting in Yanzi's car. She was holding her heart. Her face was pale, and her head was sweating. She looked like she was still in shock. Yanzi sent Wang Chunjing away. When she got into the car, she saw Jianyun like this. She was worried. Sister, do you want to go to the hospital? Jianyun waved her hand and picked up the cup of water in her bag. She looked up and took a big gulp before saying, No need, I'm fine. Sister Z, quickly leave this place. Yanzi started the car but was still very worried. What exactly is going on? Sister Z, he is here. Jianyun calmed down and said in a deep voice. Who is Huo Liancheng? Yanzi suddenly became excited. You mean Huo Liancheng is here? Hey, drive carefully. Jianyun saw that Yanzi was driving well on the road and suddenly stepped on the brakes. She was so scared that she hurriedly grabbed the handle of the car window. At this time, the car behind her also honked unhappily. Yanzi stuck out her tongue and adjusted the car's speed. She smiled at Jianyun in embarrassment. Haha, suddenly hearing Prince Charming's name is too exciting, sorry. Sister Z, I want to leave tomorrow. Jianyun could not be bothered with Yanzi's infatuation. She frowned and told her plan. Where to? Continue to hide from him? Yanzi curled her lips and said disapprovingly. When did you become such an ostrich? If you have something to do, go and settle it. Why are you running? I don't know how to face him. Jianyun covered her face with her hands and leaned her head against the seat of the car. Her voice was muffled. Do you not know how to face him, or have you fallen in love with him? Yanzi glanced at Jianyun and suddenly said. How is that possible? When Jianyun heard these words, she hurriedly put down her hands and looked at Yanzi with a very big reaction. She impatiently refuted. It is impossible for me to fall in love with him. He treated me like that and I still love him. Am I not a slut? All right, you don't love him. Yanzi shrugged her shoulders and said with a smile. I love him. I don't want to talk to you. Jianyun angrily glared at Yanzi and turned to look outside the car window in a daze. When they arrived home, it was exactly 7:30 p.m. Jianyun and Yanzi had eaten at Wang Qingjing's place in the afternoon and were not hungry now. Jianyun went back to her room, but she did not pack her things because she had thought about it on the road. She felt Yanzi was right. What was there for her to hide? She was right. Moreover, even if Huo Liancheng appeared in the Western restaurant, it was not necessarily to look for her. Jianyun wiped her face and smiled. She felt that she was really thinking too much. Since that was the case, she might as well face it calmly. Hey sister, if Huo Liancheng really found you, would you go with him? Yanzi stood in front of the door at some point and knocked on the door. She asked with a face full of interest. How could he find here? Jianyun snorted. Even Wu Wenjing and the others did not know her relationship with Yanzi. She did not believe that Huo Liancheng could find this place. Let's assume that sometimes fate is very mysterious. Yanzi blinked. If he really finds this place, then I will accept my fate. Jianyun rolled her eyes at Yanzi and said somewhat angrily. I also want to see what fate's arrangement will be like. Ha ha ha. Yanzi was very excited. I keep feeling that something will happen. Oh no, I suddenly have inspiration. I have to write it down. The wife who ran away actually saw the figure of the overbearing CEO in a completely unfamiliar place. She was so scared that she ran away. Who knew that she would go out to clean up the trash at night, but found that someone moved in next door. The wife looked closely and saw that it was actually the overbearing CEO in her dream. Oh my, it's a proper romantic drama. I'll give you 3 seconds. Quickly disappear from my sight. Jianyun grabbed her slippers and threw them at Yanzi. Yanzi nimbly lowered her head and avoided the attack of the slippers. She laughed complacently and ran away while stepping on her slippers. Jianyun was disturbed by Yanzi's words, but she immediately patted her head and muttered to herself, How stupid! To actually believe Yanzi's nonsense. How could there be such a coincidence in this world? At this time, her phone rang. It was Granny Liao next door. Chapter 273, Fate Unspeakable. Xiaoyun, are you free now? Come and help Grandma take a look at her clothes. Granny Liao sounded very energetic, as if she was very happy. Jianyun was also fine on her left and right. Moreover, staying alone would cause her thoughts to run wild, so she agreed. Okay, Grandma, I will be right there. Hurry up, call Yan Ziwen together. Guirong made soup. I am too bored to drink alone. Granny Liao said enthusiastically. Grandma, we've eaten. Jianyun liked this straightforward old lady from the bottom of her heart. During this period of time, she did not want to inquire about Granny Liao's background. When people interact with others, sometimes it is not bad to maintain a bit of mystery. Sister Z, Granny Liao asked you to drink soup. Jianyun had been in a daze since she came back and had not changed her clothes. Now that she wanted to go out, it saved her time. I'm not going. I'm rushing for the script. Help me say thank you to Aunt Liao. Yanzi was tapping on the keyboard in the study room. Okay. Jianyun heard her and did not say much. She changed her shoes and went out alone. However, when Jianyun pressed the doorbell of Granny Liao's house, her heart beat wildly for no reason. She was so panicked, but what was there for her to panic about? Jianyun suddenly thought of the story that Yanzi had just fabricated. She said that the new resident next door was. Jianyun's eyelids suddenly twitched a few times, but she immediately sneered. She despised herself for making such a big fuss out of nothing. She was shocked to believe Yanzi's nonsense. How could there be such a coincidence in this world? It just so happened that she was hiding here, and Huo Liancheng moved over? Moreover, the person living next door was clearly Granny Liao and her old sister. Little Yun is here, quickly come in. Guirong opened the door and saw Jianyun. Clearly very happy, she hurriedly pulled her hand and entered the house. Where is Granny Liao? When Jianyun changed her shoes, she looked down and saw a pair of men's leather shoes at the entrance. Looking at the size of the shoes, the man should be very tall and the shoes were handmade. This meant that the owner of the shoes had high requirements for quality of life. Most importantly, Jianyun felt that these shoes looked familiar. Thinking about this, her heart suddenly jumped and she subconsciously whispered to Guirong. Grandma Kui, is there a guest at your house? Oh, that's right. Young master is here. Guirong said with a smile. Jianyun's eyelids suddenly jumped again. She quickly stopped and pulled her hand out of Quirong's hand. She said awkwardly, Grandma Kui, your family is here. It is not convenient for me to be here. I should go back first and help Grandma look at her clothes tomorrow. As she said, Jianyun turned around and was about to walk out. Miss, Lil Yun is here. If you don't come out, she will leave. Quirong grabbed Jianyun's hand and did not let go as she shouted loudly. Coming, coming, coming. Granny Liao replied in the room. Xiaoyun, wait, I will come out immediately. When she said that, Jianyun could not leave just like that. She could only comfort herself in her heart. She must have thought too much. Quirong pulled Jianyun towards the sofa. Xiaoyun, the young miss asked the young master to bring you a lot of chocolate. I will wrap it up for you. Take it back and eat slowly. No need, Grandma Kui, there's more at home. I can't eat that much. Jianyun quickly refused. Although the chocolate was very delicious, if she really took it away unceremoniously, it would appear that she was too greedy. What's there to be polite about? Maybe we will still be a family in the future. Quirong mysteriously moved closer to Jianyun's ear and softly said, Mrs. favorite young master Zhe has also come. Miss said that she will introduce you guys to him tomorrow. Let me tell you, although young master Zhe is not as handsome as my family's young master, his character is good. He is also funny and knows the mood. You will definitely like him. Grandma Kui, I don't like men. Jianyun's face was about to cramp up. Why were the aunties and aunties nowadays so fond of introducing people? What nonsense are you talking about? Women are only complete when they are together with men. You don't like men. That's because you haven't met the right person. Quirong knocked Jianyun on the head and pretended to be angry. Jianyun was helpless. She admitted that Quirong was right, but the key to the problem was here. She always met people who were not virtuous, so now she did not have any thoughts about men at all. What are the two of you talking about? Whispering, who doesn't like men? Jianyun and Quirong were chatting when they heard a sound behind them. She turned around and saw Granny Liao walking out of the house in her lively dancing dress. How is it? Does it look good? Granny Liao turned around and made a few dance gestures. She looked full of confidence and waited for everyone to praise her. Jianyun walked over and squinted her eyes and smiled as she praised. Grandma, you are really good looking. I think so too. Granny Liao winked at Jianyun. Jianyun was just about to say something when she raised her head and suddenly saw a person walking over from behind Granny Liao. It was a man. The man was handsome and handsome. When he walked out, he was definitely the center of attention. However, when Jianyun saw the man's face, she felt her scalp go numb. A cold air climbed up her back. The smile on the corner of her mouth immediately froze, and the blood on her face also disappeared in an instant. How is this possible? How could she see Huolian Chang in Granny Liao's house? Jianyun felt like she was about to lose her breath. Her mind was in chaos and had turned into mush. She could not react at all. Her heart was beating so fast that it almost broke her chest and jumped out of her body. At that time, Huolian Chang was also looking at Jianyun. He narrowed his eyes and hid the heat in his eyes. He had to hold his hands tightly by his side to suppress the urge to hug her tightly. He missed her so much that he was about to go crazy. At the same time, he wanted to give her a good beating. He had done something unforgivable to her, but if she had any resentment, she could just vent it on him. Why did she run away so decisively? And she actually dared to wear such cool clothes and flirt with a man outside. Huolian Chang suddenly frowned because he noticed Jianyun's face alternated between white and red, as if she was about to drip blood. He took a closer look and found that she was holding her breath. Seeing that he was too shocked, she was so scared that she forgot to breathe. You. Huolian Chang took a step forward and wanted to remind Jianyun. But just as he opened his mouth, before he could finish a word, he saw Jianyun suddenly lower her head and turn around. With an extremely fast speed, she said to Granny Liao, Grandma, I remember that the stove in the house is still burning. I will go back first. After saying that, Jianyun did not look at Granny Liao and Quirong, as if her butt was on fire. She quickly rushed to the door, forgot to change her shoes, opened the door and ran out. Miss, is Xiaoyun shy? Why do you see that young master's face is red and white? Quirong felt that Jianyun's reaction was very strange. I don't think she is shy, but more like she is afraid. Why does it look like she saw a ghost? Granny Liao was also puzzled. She turned her head to look at Huolian Chang. Do you guys know each other? Chapter 274. Is Dodo your ex-girlfriend? Huolian Chang ignored Granny Liao. He thought for a while and walked towards the door. After changing his shoes, he opened the door and walked out. On the other side, Jianyun almost ran home. She closed the door with a bang and went into her own room. She pulled out the box from the cabinet and started to clean her clothes. Yanzi heard the sound and rushed over when she heard the news. Seeing Jianyun's pale face, she could not help but ask, What are you doing? Sister Z, he's here. I have to leave this place. Jianyun was incoherent. She only cared about stuffing her clothes into the box. Who's here? She asked. Jianyun, make it clear. Why are you so scared? Yanzi pulled Jianyun and asked with a serious expression. She suddenly seemed to have thought of something and suddenly opened her eyes wide while her mouth opened into an O shape. You didn't really see Huolian Chang, right? Sister Z, I can't stay any longer. I want to leave this place. Jin Yoon also did not know why she was so afraid. Perhaps it was because that night was too painful and her memory was too bad. Also, what he said was too hurtful. She did not have any other feelings for him other than fear and disgust. Wait, Jin Yoon, calm down. Even if you see him, there is no need to hide. Do you still remember what I said to you before? Hiding is not a way. If something happens, you have to face it. Yanzi felt that Jianyun's mood was not right and hurriedly advised her. No, I can't calm down. Jianyun covered her face and suddenly started to cry. Sigh. Women have to experience all these. Baby, I think the two of you really need to have a good talk. The misunderstanding between the two of you is too deep. Yanzi hugged Jianyun and gently patted her back to comfort her. Jianyun wiped away her tears and looked up at Yanzi. Sister Z, I really don't know how to face him. Yanzi's eyes rolled and suddenly said, Baby, you really don't think that you would care so much because you fell in love with him? No, Jianyun immediately screamed and denied. Her eyes were red like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Good, no, baby, it's so late now. It's not safe for you to go out. I'll send you off tomorrow morning, okay? Yanzi could not help but sigh. This girl, she could grit her teeth and endure so many unexpected events at home without saying a word. Why was she so confused about her own matters? Sister Z, can you send me off now? Jinyun was almost out of her mind. Okay, wait for me to change my clothes. Yanzi also knew that Jianyun would not listen to anything at this time, so she could only agree to it first. She thought about it and would bring her out for a walk later. When she calmed down, she would come back. Jianyun zipped up her suitcase and waited at the door. She felt as if there was a mess in her head, or as if there was a swarm of bees buzzing in her ears, making her head almost crack. Yanzi changed her clothes and came out. She opened the door first. Jianyun was about to go out but saw Yanzi standing still. She immediately felt her hair stand on end. It was Huo Liancheng. He actually blocked the door. You are Huo Liancheng. God, you are so handsome. You are even more handsome than what I saw on TV. When Yanzi saw Huo Liancheng, she had already forgotten all about Jianyun behind her. Not only did she become infatuated with him, she even invited him enthusiastically. Quick, come in and have a seat. Sister Z. Jianyun was about to go crazy. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot you were here. Yanzi came back to her senses and smiled at Huo Liancheng with embarrassment. Handsome Huo, what can I do for you? I'm looking for her. Huo Liancheng's eyes were always focused on Jianyun and his voice was always low. Can I have a talk at your house? But Yanzi was a little hesitant. She looked at Jianyun, who was staring at her angrily, and said in a dilemma, Handsome Huo, Jianyun? I know. There is some misunderstanding between me and her. Don't worry, I will not hurt her. Although Huo Liancheng's words were to answer Yanzi, it was obviously meant for Jianyun to hear. I don't want to talk to you. If you don't leave, I'll leave. Jianyun said angrily and wanted to rush out. Can you stay away for a while? Huo Liancheng hooked his arm around Jianyun and looked up at Yanzi. Baby, I think he is right. No matter what misunderstanding or conflict you have, hiding is not a solution. In the end, the problem must be solved. You and him have a good conversation here. Good boy. Yanzi shook Jianyun's hand and gave her a comforting look before she left worriedly. Let go. Jianyun struggled with all her might. Duer, listen to me, okay? Huo Liancheng hugged Jianyun tightly and whispered in her ear. The hot air hit Jianyun's face, and Jianyun felt goosebumps all over her body. But then she was stunned. What did he call her just now? Duer? But this wasn't her name. Jianyun immediately became angry. She did not know where she got the strength from, but she suddenly turned around and pushed Huo Liancheng away. She glared at him angrily, and her eyes were about to flare up. What do you think I am? Is it a toy or a substitute? What substitute? Huo Liancheng frowned and reached out to pull Jianyun. Slap! Jianyun did not hesitate to slap Huo Liancheng's face. His face turned slightly and he was silent for 2 seconds. He slowly looked at Jianyun and narrowed his eyes. A dangerous light flashed. Jianyun did not seem to notice the change in Huo Liancheng's expression and eyes. At this moment, she felt a surge of anger in her heart. It was mixed with strong disappointment and resentment. It made her shout at Huo Liancheng without caring about anything. I knew it. How could there be such a good thing? You said nothing and deliberately approached me. It turns out that you were just looking for a substitute. Who is Duoer? Your ex-girlfriend? Is she dead or dumped you? What does that have to do with me? Is it because I look like her? Why are you treating me like this? At the end, Jianyun could not help but cover her face and cry. Large tears rolled down from between her fingers. She had never been so sad before. What are you talking about? What does it look like? Huo Liancheng grabbed Jianyun's hand and forced her to look up at him. The expression on his handsome face was cold, but there was disappointment and anger in his eyes. Think about it carefully. Do you really not know who Duoer is? How do I know who Duo is? Jianyun cried so hard that she did not have any image. She struggled desperately to get away from Huo Liancheng's hand. But at this moment, an idea suddenly flashed in her mind. Duer. It seemed like someone had indeed called her that before. He said that Duo was better sounding than Yunduo. The moment he saw Yunduo in the sky, he would think of her. Jianyun suddenly felt a little out of breath. She grabbed Huo Liancheng's big hand with a backhand and stopped crying hysterically. The expression on her face turned into shock. She raised her head and looked at Huo Liancheng, but she immediately shook her head. Impossible. This is impossible. Chapter 275. I love you. Huo Liancheng's handsome face softened a little. He suddenly reached out and pulled out a chain from Jian Yun's collar. He picked up the ring on the chain and skillfully put it on his right index finger. The ring seemed to be tailor-made for him. It fit perfectly with his finger. Jian Yun looked at Huo Liancheng and then looked down at the ring that was already on his finger. There was a look of shock in her eyes, as if she could not react to what was going on. Do you want me to show you the seal characters of my name in the ring? Huo Liancheng asked. At this moment, Jian Yun's heart was already in turmoil. She felt as if her heart was being held by a big hand. It was so painful that she could not breathe. Her lowered eyes were changing rapidly. After a while, Jian Yun raised her head. Her small face was filled with determination. She suddenly grabbed the thin chain around her neck and pulled it off with force. Then, she took a few steps back and pulled away the distance between her and Huo Liancheng. She stared at him with vigilance. What are you trying to do? Huo Liancheng tried his best to suppress the urge to slap Jian Yun. He took a few deep breaths and said, I said that I came for you. No, you are not. Jian Yun sneered. She finally understood everything. The reason why Huo Liancheng wanted to find her and get close to her was all because of this ring. The person who gave her the ring had said that this ring was passed down from the family. Only the heir would have it. It was the symbol of the family's power. Although she did not completely believe it because that person gave it too easily, she still carefully kept it all these years. At that moment, she suddenly remembered that night in the mythological club. She woke up from her coma and saw Huo Liancheng holding the ring in his hand. At that time, his eyes were so hot. You? Huo Liancheng's entire body was filled with coldness. He really didn't know how to describe his current mood. He really wanted to strangle her. Jian Yun thought through the whole story. She reached out and wiped the tears from her face. Although she was disappointed and sad, her heart hurt. She had a desire to bury her head and cry, but she still tried her best to restrain it. Jian Yun tried her best to keep her tone calm. She turned her head and said in a low voice, Now I have returned the ring to you. Take it and leave. I will forget what happened before and pretend that nothing happened. Can you really pretend that nothing happened? Huo Liancheng asked, grinding his teeth. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone. No one will know that you. Jian Yun suddenly shut her mouth and looked away. She did not continue. Okay, very good. Huo Liancheng gritted his teeth and said these words. He nodded and suddenly turned around and walked out of the door. Jian Yun stood still and did not move. She only felt as if thousands of needles were pricking her heart. She looked at her hand and gently held it. She felt as if something had slipped away in her palm. However, before Jian Yun could think of why she had such thoughts, she felt a strong force hit her. Then, her vision turned dark. Someone suddenly hugged her. It was Huo Liancheng who had returned. Not only did he hug her, he even lowered his head and kissed her. Woo! Jian Yun came back to her senses and widened her eyes in an instant. She struggled with all her might, trying to push Huo Liancheng away. Huo Liancheng forced himself to kiss Jian Yun and said angrily, Forget it? Do you want to let it just like that? How can it be so easy? 6 years ago, you hooked my heart. Now you're saying let it go? Jian Yun was suddenly stunned. What was he talking about? He said she hooked his heart 6 years ago? What did this mean? At this time, Huo Liancheng also let go of Jian Yun. He was still hugging her, almost touching the tip of her nose. His eyes were filled with anger. He pinched her chin and said in a cold voice, Why are you not willing to believe me no matter what I say? Ah? Shu Haiyang's-meg-her. Can a single sentence fool you? Just because I love you and you don't love me? Jian Yun's eyes were pitch black, and the blood on her face slowly faded. Her lips were as red as blood because of Huo Liancheng's bite just now. This made her feel an increasingly intense beauty. Ever since I met you in Yellow Mountain 6 years ago, my heart was no longer there. All these years, I've been looking for you. Do you think that I'm only looking for this ring? The more Huo Liancheng spoke, the angrier he got. From the moment he met Jian Yun again, the words that he had suppressed in his heart for many years could finally be said out loud. If I want to find the ring, do I need to come? But the shock in Jian Yun's heart could not be described with words, but reason told her that she could not believe his words. Do you still not believe? Do you want me to cut open my heart for you to see? Huo Liancheng was even more furious. His eyes were bloodshot. He tore open the collar of his shirt and revealed his well-dressed chest. Jian Yun bit her lips, but her heart became even more chaotic. We stayed together for 21 days. If it wasn't for you, at that time, I might have died. You don't even know what happened to me back then. Huo Liancheng's eyes were full of pain. His voice became low and hoarse, as if he was suppressing some unspeakable emotion. Jian Yun opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but her lips moved a few times, but in the end, she did not say anything. At this moment, she was so shocked that she could not think. Is he really that person back then? But I really want to knock your head open and see what you're thinking. Why aren't you willing to believe me? Huo Liancheng suddenly pulled Jian Yun into his arms. He was so strong that he could almost crush her. I'm so confused. Give me some time. Jian Yun felt that her bones were about to break. She pushed Huo Liancheng hard. I have given you enough time. But what did you do? Completely ignoring me, dating another man. Huo Liancheng relaxed a little, but he did not let go of Jian Yun. You said you wanted to get married, so I will marry you. But damn it, you rejected me. Huo Liancheng said angrily. Jian Yun frowned. I didn't love you back then. Why can't I reject you? Back then? Huo Liancheng's sharp senses immediately caught the key point. His eyes suddenly lit up. He grabbed Jian Yun's shoulder and raised his voice. What about now? Now you are in love with me. Jian Yun was stunned for a moment, as if she did not realize what she had said, until she heard Huo Liancheng's last sentence. Her face suddenly turned red, and her heart started beating wildly in her chest, but she immediately denied it. No. Look at me, say it again. As long as you say no, I won't bother you anymore. Huo Liancheng suppressed his excitement and deliberately spoke in a cold voice. Jian Yun bit her lips and turned her head away from him. However, there was anger in her voice. No, I don't love you. You can let go of me. Silence. Jian Yun did not look up, but she realized Huo Liancheng had let go of her. He took 2 steps back, and she turned her back to him.